I hit record because the sun's coming up on the background.
Oh, that's perfectly timed.
It looked nice. So, sorry, ninja launch.
We were trying to work out if it's episode 31 or not, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Welcome to the good stuff, the big episode 31, probably. Most likely. We haven't checked.
Forgive us if not.
Biggest yet. Usual jokes. All right.
Well, we've got a theme for today, don't we?
Yeah, you
That's
came
not
up with a theme. I thought it was a good one.
It's a good one.
I had a
Alright.
bad theme, so we'll save that one for next week.
Next week, yeah. Big episode 32. Yeah.
Next time we're bored.
That's the rev up it needed. Yeah, nice. Theme for today? What have we changed our mind on over the last 12 months or so?
Yeah, I mean, how long have we been doing the podcast? Maybe
Since March, I think.
6 months-ish?
Yeah.
7? Yeah,
31
wow.
weeks.
31 weeks, yeah, okay, there
Yeah.
you go. 31 weeks of podcasts. Maybe 32, who knows?
It's possible. Yeah.
And what have we changed our mind on in that time? I think that's a good call, because there's probably a couple of big ones that I think. The two...
Well, can I just say, like, to frame it,
Yep.
what's worth noting is I think, like, a lot of those views that we started pushing out in week 1, week 2, up to week 5, 6, you know, like, a lot of those were formed the year prior, working through a lot of the tools, and, like, a lot of that philosophy was formed, I'd say, like, in the preceding 18 months. But
That's true, yeah.
You know, I think the last year has also been, like, quite instructive. We've had more time with the tools as well. So I think this is like a nice, going into Christmas soon as well, this is like a nice period to just reflect on what our thoughts are for some of these things.
It's probably worth explaining, like, almost Australian Christmas to the people abroad that don't get it, which is that it's just hot and
It's
beautiful, and nobody goes to work for at least a month. And so it really is like a proper time of reflection. Like, there's no, I don't know, I know when I've been in the UK, like, you have Christmas. Christmas is fun, it's a big festival to look forward to, sort of thing, and then you end up in January and it's just wasn't great.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of sunny, hot Christmases with a bit of time off to think.
Yeah.
Like,
Everyone goes to the beach.
Such a nice time of year.
Yeah.
But
It is odd.
It does mean there's more people at the beach. I didn't think I'd get
There's
on.
a little bit more ambient beach noise today for the pod as well, so fair warning.
No drum and bass though for people
That's
that are
true.
looking for that. For dead men.
Yeah.
Well, that was it. Okay, we're rambling.
Where do we want to kick this one off then?
Well,
what's the big one? Well, there's probably a few.
I think there's a couple that we talked about. I mean, I guess one thing to think is that it's not. Sometimes it's that I feel like maybe we've changed our mind. I think sometimes we've just changed a bit of ordering and
It's evolved.
timing and stuff like that. Is
Yeah.
like, but yeah, like, it really is driven from spending 6 months, like, really just using these things day in, day out, and trying to figure out, okay, well, how do you use these tools best?
Yeah.
How can you apply them? Like, talking to various different people, like, trying out different business ideas. But I think a big one for me was probably, and it's come up on the podcast a few times, I think, which is probably the human at the edge model, which I still, to a certain extent, I think this is where it ends up. I just don't think it goes there as quickly as I thought it would.
Should we do the TLDR on this one? The human
So,
at the edge?
the TLDR, so human at the edge, the idea was that what you want to do is design processes in a business where the human sits at the edge of the process. So they monitor, they steer, but they don't really do any of the work. And in particular, I guess because we've spent a lot of time with coding and various things, and I'm like, okay, well, it's just not what I do. Like, every time I try and design stuff that takes me out of the loop and puts me at the edge, I'm like, I just don't understand what's going on at enough level of detail that I can be at the edge anymore. So I think that it has, like, an inherent weakness in it. I think there's probably a trade-off here, which is the more at the edge you are, the less you understand it.
Yeah.
And then, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and I think that might just be, like, just could be a natural thing.
Yeah.
It's like, could be true with anything. Like, I'm experiencing it with, like, building stuff and coding, and it's just like, if I'm involved, the results are so much better.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm involved in, like, reviewing code and checking everything that the machine's done. It's not like that. It's just that you are in the loop of, like, all the decisions that are being made and what we do next and the testing.
Yeah.
And I feel the same would be true of writing, for instance.
Mhm.
Like, there's definitely a whole bunch of just processing tasks that I think human at the edge would work for.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think there's a lot more. I don't know if I'd call it. Yeah, probably it's like bionic human. Like, the idea is like it's me, but it's me with like a shit ton of tools that lets me move faster.
It speeds up the core part of the work as well, but also eliminates the parts that just waste your time. And to what degree do you think it's just like it's the control interface that's the issue there, like where you have models that are probabilistic
No, sorry, man.
and you know, they don't give you the deterministic outputs that you're necessarily looking for from within processes. So there's a little bit of the unknown sometimes in terms of what you're going to get from these things if you're trying to like rig a process with them. So how much of it is just you've ceded control of a process or a piece of work that you should really be paying attention to? And maybe it's just the wrong tool for the job sometimes as well.
I mean, as I said, like, it still strikes me that there's a lot of stuff that I just wouldn't care like, if I've got control over it or not.
Yeah.
It just struck me as like, you know what, even with coding, I still thought that there's nothing here that, like, even when I'm making all the decisions, like, I can still move myself to the edge, and then there's a plan, and the plan controls the agents, and the agents control the agents, which is kind of part of that human at the edge type thing, is that there is a workflow. The workflow manages itself. Sort of thing. It's just doesn't seem to be true. At least not currently. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, my best guess is that I do a lot more like changing stuff around, and I'm just more actively involved than I would imagine, and could know up front.
Yeah.
Whereas like, there must be tasks that will suit this, but like it's
just not the way we're choosing to work with these tools. I think natively, like, we've had the choice now of how to work with them, and we've just like defaulted into like a working rhythm.
So maybe like an interesting thing here would be like when I was a software engineering cohort, there was everybody had different ways of working with AI, and you'd see the people that were, you know, if you're not paying attention to the computer, and you could look at their agents running, and they had Claude Code, he had a big long task list that he's slowly working through. Nothing worked.
Yeah.
And then like in the demo time, stuff would be on the screen, and they'd be like, I don't know what these buttons do. It's just like a bunch of stuff that's in there. And it was, you realize that like there was something about that experience that's like, you know what, like you can do it, but it just doesn't work in the same way. So it's, I don't know if I've got a great answer as to like why or what to do about it, or whether it's achievable the other way, but it really did strike me that like that's not how I expected it to work. I really did want it to work where I could just go like, okay, I'm going to design a plan and have an idea of what I want to do, and then the agents will just shit out the perfect app by the end of it, and all I need to do is figure out like what's the methodology for the planning.
Yeah.
I also think in the building, you then respond to it, and as you're like, you know, maybe this is more instructive. It's because I'm building like stuff for me. Yeah. Like I have an idea of what I want, but I have a much better idea of what I want when it's on the screen. And then I can adjust to it. And I don't always care what it looks like. I don't care like exactly how things work. They can be good enough. Yeah. And I can react very quickly to like what it presents me. And I feel like I just get a much better outcome when I do it in concert with the thing. Yeah. And I don't know, this reminds me a lot of like talking to Gigi and like how he works with AIs, and he'll often talk about how he does everything in dialogue with the AI. So you wouldn't say, all right, build exactly this. You would say something like, okay, I've got this problem and I want to achieve something here, like how would you think about this? And so, oh well, I guess I would think about it like this. And like, okay, well, I mean, what might that look like as a plan? Is there a couple of options? And you go through this like development of the plan together. And in doing that, it just teases way more out of your head than you would have had previously, that you could just shit out onto a page. Now, so it just strikes me that like it's definitely an area where I've notably shifted. Is I probably would have thought there'd be more planning up front, a spec, and then the thing gets created. And what I generally see is it's better to be actively involved
Yeah.
and just iterate super quickly.
Yeah, I think it's also more entertaining. You know, like when I'm thinking back on like what
That's a
I've been
great
working
point.
on, you know, like what I've been working on for the last like year or so, I don't think I've like actively sought to abdicate any core part of the work because I want to be involved. It's like, otherwise, what are we doing? You know, like you kind of want it to be a bit entertaining, a bit fun, a bit engaging. You want to be able to steer it. You want to be able to course correct. Sometimes the original idea isn't the right one.
You still advocate writing the code, right?
Writing the
Not
code,
then
sure.
retyping
Yeah.
stuff.
But what I
Okay, on the Soundbite, that's insane.
But my point is, like, I would sit and read a lot of the outputs.
Yeah.
Like, I like reading through, you know, when you've got like an agent thinking, like, I will read those because I just want to see, like, directionally, where is it going?
Yeah.
Why is it doing the things it's
Oh,
doing?
and it's good to be able to then stop it as well. It's like, oh, no,
Exactly.
don't do that. Like,
Yeah.
well, where the fuck are you going?
It's really valuable. But what's interesting is, like, that's like a collaborative process to some degree because I'll often get ideas out of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm now, like, I have a window into this agent's thinking in a similar way that you and I might have a window into each other's thinking when we're working together.
Yeah.
Or really any third party. Like, you kind of just want to have this, like, open dialogue. But it's great because I don't have to probe for it. It's just there in my CLI. And then I'm sitting and thinking about it. And it's still writing code. But my head is in, like, a different part of the process. And so, like, there is this, like, this connection that doesn't get broken, and I actually wouldn't want to. I feel like that would be like both not entertaining for me because I actually like doing the work, but also I feel like I just get a worse output. So
I think that's really there's 2 points. Like, the first one I would say there is that, like, it's a great point that you do the thing that has the better energy. Like, it's actually
completely.
like if we end up inventing AIs and the output is we get to write specs, it's like,
you don't want to do
fuck that. Nobody wants to do that. What you actually want to do is like build stuff, see it, iterate, do it again. Like, and so maybe it's as simple as just like, that's more fun. So that's why it works better, is because it's more fun.
Work is play.
So it might be like more efficient the other way, but you will never do it because it's boring.
Yeah.
So that was one point. And the other point what's the other point? Now you go, because
I was just going to say on that, it may be more efficient the other way, but it's still vastly more efficient than what we've had in the past.
Exactly.
So
it's like maybe you're choosing between a 10-fold and a 20-fold speed increase, or like 100 and a 200 or something, and you're like, well, I'll just take the 100 and have fun, then I'll do it twice as much, and then I've got all the speed back. It's like there's not enough of a difference between the two endpoints that I don't know why you would ever do the one that doesn't bring you energy.
So what do you potentially risk or give up by going max speed? You know, like your error tolerance is
control.
way lower.
Like, you just don't know. I think you also introduce, it's like you're way more likely to introduce errors.
Yeah.
And then you die, because then an error is insanely costly, because then you can like all the time that you've saved you could just burn trying to get out of it. So that we want. I remember the other point. The other point was like maybe there is something different there, where like, so we talked about human at the edge and bionic human. Like, the human at the edge is like the machine does all the work and you kind of like monitor and manage it, which in all honesty is a bit more boring.
Yeah.
I think a bionic human, which is like the superhuman with all the tools and they work really quickly, but we never really like dug into collaborative work.
True.
Because that's kind of like what you were saying with the, watching the prompts and like seeing its thinking about it, is that all of a sudden work has got, and this might again tell us like why it's more fun, is that you're always collaborating.
Yeah.
Which, and like, it's so like energy giving when, I mean, it probably depends on the person in all honesty, but you know what I mean? Like when you're like together in a team with people and like you're just pumping out ideas and like stuff's happening.
Yeah.
And you're gelling and it works and it's like, fuck yeah, this is great. But it's hard to do that all the time because everybody has like different schedules and different places where they are and like all the stuff going on. Whereas like there is this like, like little wingman that just sits there and just you collaborate with like all day. Like everything you do is now collaborative, but collaborative in a way where the person sort of like doesn't, like there's no judgment. You remove a lot of like social stigmas about stuff. I find it like an incredible like partner to think stuff through with.
Which is interesting, isn't it? Because it's kind of almost antithetical to like a lot of the motifs of AI that are pushed by most people. It's always like, oh, it'll just do all the work for you. You know, it's a replacement. And it's like, well, I don't know if that's where its true power is. It feels like literally it's the wingman, right? It's the collaborative buddy that is infinitely tolerant, never subject to mood, you know. You can bounce almost anything off of it, like no matter how stupid or how intellectually curious. It really doesn't matter where on the spectrum it is.
Yeah.
It will work with you, you know. Whereas those are like really hard to dial into in a workplace, even with other people, because it's so like, you know, there's so many independent variables, right? People have, you know, they can be feeling off one day, the energy can be a bit off, their mood can be a bit off, and all of this stuff impacts your ability to collaborate. But we almost try to like force moments of collaboration in the workplace.
Yeah.
Whereas you can just do it when you feel up to it.
Yeah, and like with nobody else, like we talk a lot about permissionless stuff. Like this is like permissionless collaboration. You don't even need to convince another human that you're nice. Like you could be like the biggest cunt. Sorry, there goes the YouTube view.
All right, to all 4 people who are now listening to this, we apologize.
Yeah, you could be like the biggest.
Sorry, not sorry.
And yeah, I mean, we're not going to edit it, so it's done.
It's no fun.
Yeah, you could be the biggest whatever, and like you still have this person here that will collaborate with you.
Yeah.
Although I have heard that there's some research. If you're mean to AIs, they get worse. Like you need to start new sessions, they can lose their confidence in their solutions and start undermining themselves. Yeah.
Really?
And so if you have like an agent where you keep like swearing at it and telling it it's doing it wrong,
Yeah.
it like kind of starts second guessing itself, and then gets like the answers get worse and worse as it goes. So you need to like scratch it and start a new session.
Yeah.
So I mean, definitely swear at your LLMs, but then do like /new.
Yeah. So it's almost like you need to almost like incept like the like good job, buddy. You know, like
I think so.
Just throw those in there every so often.
It's like, I don't know. I did this
just boost its confidence.
an interesting like little workshop or was a talk at Sovereign Engineering called Set and Setting, which was all about like how you can get different outputs out of LLMs based on the set and setting in which you give them. And like the set is all about like, you know, like the giving it the prompts and the system prompts and the, like setting it up as a particular type of person with particular tools and that. And then the setting was all about like the physical and social setting that it played in. So like what tools does it have access to? Like how is it being interacted with? Does it have other people it can talk to about the problem? And like all the stuff that I did with Pipeliner back in the day. If you remember that one. And like in the set, like I was saying, like it is like, if you want to make your like LLM better, you say, you're a senior engineer.
Yeah, I do this all the time.
It's just like, oh, I'm a senior engineer now, and it
Do you know
gets
what my
better. It's
favourite
like,
one is?
you're really good at writing code.
My favourite one, and like I swear this works really effectively, but I will literally lead off the initial prompt by saying, you're 160 IQ and you're a specialist in X, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And periodically...
And it throws out everything it's ever read on Reddit. It's just like, it's not the 160 IQ take.
Just full right code. But every so often, like throughout the prompt chain, I'll just ask it as well. I'm like, can you just remind me what your IQ is? And it's like, it will come back and be like, oh yeah, I'm 160 and this is what I'm thinking about.
Maybe you should run...
It actually does make a difference.
Also, you are a 60 IQ.
Yeah.
What is the simplest way to achieve this?
That's how we get all of the left curve solutions,
Yeah. But
it is something that I've accidentally tested because I've just run like similar chats because I couldn't find... This is like a standard Claude in the app problem where you're just like, oh, I can't find the thing we talked about like a month ago, and I want to have like a similar conversation, so I'll just start it again.
Yeah, it's incredible like, how hard it is to find stuff that you talked about. Like the amount of chats that I've got that just say like, what's the tmux command for this? Like, how do I do this in Git? And I'm like, this is like such a waste of energy.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, I don't worry too much about the energy consumption of AI, but sometimes when I'm asking for the 400th time how to do something in Git, I'm like, feels like there's a more... I should just write a script. Write a script and put it on my computer.
Yeah, I do get these written into Obsidian. Like when I've done it a couple of times, I'll just be like, write this into like, I've got like a rules folder or a process folder that I know I'm just going to have to... And it's like Git commands always, because I just keep going back to it. Little things, little like commands in the terminal as well.
Yeah.
Like, I just have a list of them.
All the stuff you forget.
But I think there's something to this where you just want the work to be interesting. Like even writing. So if we just like out of the coding space and into writing, like I thought initially, this is just going to do the substantive body of text for me and I'll just go through and tweak it. And I actually just don't think that is particularly handy because I actually quite enjoy the writing part. But it is quite good again at this like ideation and then inserting itself in the process, or I'll put like blocks of text in like a paragraph and go, how does this relate to the thesis that I'm trying to build out? Give it enough context and it will just basically act as a one-to-one, like a coach. I think that's really interesting, especially if you can give it the kind of writing that I'm looking to achieve, like a reference point, which is like probably an idea for a tool where you could like get a writing assistant that is basically has like a knowledge base on your own previous writing, so it knows what you're trying to say and how you normally say it and can help you like tweak that for consistency. But yeah, again, I wouldn't necessarily want to abdicate the whole, like, it depends what it is you're writing, I guess, but like in our case, like if it's an essay for the website or a LinkedIn post or something like that, it's stuff that I don't generally want to just turn into slop and hit send on.
So I think like there is something here that this is just like maybe the best way of working with these things is that you do work with them in concert. It's a collaborative effort that you have. And like, so to invoke friend of the pod, Gigi again.
Yes.
Like he will always talk about John Vervaeke, presumed friend of the pod. I think Gigi has to have a shot now. We've said John Vervaeke.
Yeah.
So, and he would say that, like, you know, part of the problem with AIs and like what they miss is that they lack like an embodied self. And so, lacking an embodied self, they really have like no drive.
Yeah. Like,
you know, it's like that. Say, well, if you could solve like immortality, would you care about anything anymore? Like, if you had infinite time to do whatever you wanted, you could learn whatever you wanted. You could always start again. Like, what do you now care about? And it's like, it's only in the sort of knowing that we will die and the knowing that we need to like pass on stuff to our kids and we need to set up our kids to be better. Like that's kind of what drives a lot of human behavior.
Yeah.
And like a lot of them socially, like what exists in the world. And it's like, well, it's like, well, you don't have that inside LLMs. And so maybe like maybe that points us towards why this is such like seemingly a more natural way to work with these things. Because I think we are still trying to figure out like how do we exist with these things? Like, do we exist where they just do all the work? No, really. It's a bit of shit.
Yeah.
Do we exist where we do all the work and we just tell them what to do? No. Like, it seems more like it's like, okay, we will get better results from this thing when we actually share experience with it and we work together in some way and we have to collaborate. That's interesting.
I think so. Yeah.
I think
there is probably a caveat here as well. Like a lot of this is like rooted in our own personal experience. I do think there are like, unfortunately, there are some types of jobs which are just, for the most part, rote administration. And, you know, if that person wants to do that work, so be it. But I do think some of these tools are just better suited to doing that work for us and freeing us. But I think when you are working on, well, really anything creative, I think, it just makes more sense to work in partnership with the model.
Yeah. In the same way that you would probably have been more creative if you could have just worked with an ideal set of other personalities that could help you. Because I guess the nice thing is its personality can be bent towards the thing that you're not good at.
That's true.
So if you're not good at writing, you can have it as a writer, but you're good at editing. If you're good at editing but not good at writing but not good at editing, then you can have it as an editor.
Exactly.
And you just switch it around. It fills the gaps that you have. Sally's.
Yeah. So a good plug. Yeah.
I don't know if that would. I don't think it translates.
It might not translate. That might be a very Australian centric.
It's an Australian brand.
Is it not in the UK?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Sally's is a gap filler.
There we go.
So it's like caulking paste.
Fair enough to send us that ad revenue if you're listening, Sally's.
Sally's, friend of the pod.
Yeah.
Well, Bunnings. I'll take Bunnings as a sponsor. That'd be fine.
That would be good.
Free hot dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So I think this is true, and I think this is something that we've learned just by doing for the most part. It's just like been this. It's just occurred natively. Like I actually don't want to be honest, I could probably extend this a little bit into like the multi-agent approach as well, because I find I do a lot of my coding just with a single agent in
yeah.
CLI, Claude Code or Codex. Like I don't tend to spin up a lot of agents. I feel like that's just adding more complexity most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's like I could do it a little bit quicker if I had another agent looking at this, but I just don't do it anymore.
So
I've done it a couple of
I will
times.
run multiple sessions.
Yeah.
I will just kick
yeah,
off
yeah.
like 10 things.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I don't really customize the agents that much unless I need them to do a particular job. Like,
Yeah.
I used to like the Goose recipes for saying like, okay, you're an agent, you're going to do this, then you're going to do this, then you're going to do this. Like giving them that works quite nicely. But like, I don't really give the agents that much in the way of a personality
Yeah.
or a system prompt these days. Or like, I just let it, because
Just raw talk.
it's programmed. Well, it's more about it gets the context on the fly
Yeah.
from the folder it's working in. So, you know, if I'm writing something and I've got a bunch of notes in there, if I'm, you know, like writing code, then it just reads the files. Like, I don't need to specify that this agent does this type of, you know, coding with these file systems and stuff. It's like, it's all there.
Yeah.
It's just set in the... I guess maybe there is a little bit of this, because I have it like just log stuff into its agents.md and Claude.md and stuff like that. So that is kind of like
Yeah.
in terms of adding stuff to the system prompt, but it's sort of, yeah, it's rare. Like I use, for the most part, a bare bones Claude Code or a bare bones Codex or a bare bones Goose, and then I just iterate in the conversation
Yes.
with the thing. So
Me
it
too.
kind of gets the personality on the fly more than it does.
Well, it's more collaborative, I think, right? It was just harder to spin up multiple agents and have them running at the same time, and that's just, again, it feels like you're baking in a little bit of complexity. It depends what it is you're doing.
I've done it where I've had like testing agents and code execution agents and writing agents, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
Like, the output was shit, and then I did it where I was involved, and I would say like, right, now we're gonna write this. Now we're gonna I don't like the machine to test itself, because it just ends up putting a bunch of crud inside the folder that you just don't need. Like I don't like just have. Again, this is one that I nicked from Gigi, but it's just the system prompt that just says, do not write tests. Like we don't write tests here, I will test.
Yeah.
Do not run this code, I will run the code. And I will tell you if it works. Like, because they either can't do it like cleanly inside their little sandbox or whatever, or they just, they end up like just writing a bunch of tests that are meaningless.
Circumvents, yeah.
And then you fire it up and you go like, all right, well, it just doesn't work. Or you just removed tests to make it work. It's just like, nah, just get it to write the best code it can think of.
Yeah.
You test it and then do it in tiny chunks. So you can
exactly.
just, you know what's worked. The other one that worked for me was just commit everything.
Yeah.
I used to be bad at that. I used to do all the commits manually. And then now it's just every single little change is committed. And it can just read back. I say, look, at some point in the last hour, this got fucked up. I don't know exactly where we did it, because I was doing like 5 things.
Yeah.
Read the commits and tell me like where this likely got messed up. And it can just go and pick out the answers. I'm like, that was a good move.
Yeah, smart.
Like it's me learning how software engineers work.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I do think like there's a lot of noise that gets thrown around people online talking about multi-agent systems, and
But they sound good.
they do sound good. Yeah.
It sounds like the sort of thing that should be the answer.
Yeah.
This is why I think it's probably a bit mid-curve.
It's mid-curve, yeah, I was just going to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also there is maybe a law of diminishing marginal returns that kicks in. And it's like, how much more complexity are you willing to stomach for a marginal increase in output and productivity?
Yeah.
It's just not worth it, I think.
Yeah.
Because you are like making your life so much more difficult just to get like a few percentage points of improvement.
I had this conversation down at the Bush Bash with a mate of mine. I won't give his name because I don't know how he does with that, but friend of the pod, I think, and he was telling me he was doing like 15, 16 hours a day, like vibe coding stuff, and he's just like smashing things, building new businesses, all sorts of stuff. I was saying like, yeah, but I want to see how you do it, because I have these big long lists and these plans, and it's just like I can get confused and stuff, and then I end up like dealing with bugs, and I was like, yeah, I don't do any of that. Like that's, I know it feels like that should work, but it does not. You get worse results.
Yeah.
it's like, should I be doing test-driven development? Seems like you should. Every experience I've had tells me that doesn't work. And you're better off not doing it. It's probably because no one's ever done test-driven development. And so everything this thing's read on the internet is just like, it's just all fucking garbage, because it's never actually been done properly.
Theoretical.
In real life. And I'm sure if you're really good at that, you can make it work in some way, but nah.
Yeah, I think there is an element of subjectivity that should be baked into this as well. It's like, actually, how do you like working with these things? And maybe that's part of the takeaways. You've got to find that like natural balance that you enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to. It fills in the gaps that you don't have. So like, for a lot of people, if they're doing like say vibe coding, then the assumption is that you don't code. So let it write the code. That's a gap that you've got. But you probably do know how to use an application. So you do the testing, and you probably like seeing it and do new stuff, and then you run it, and then you go, oh shit, I can test that. Like, oh, it'd be great if that did that. Well, then you just ask it to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, but just get it to do the bits that you don't know how to do. Just ask it to do it.
I mean, we've always had that issue though, because you'd have like non-technical founders working with developers, and you always have this communication problem where you've got a non-technical saying, I need XYZ implemented, it needs to look a certain way, and developer going, well, maybe, I think maybe it needs to be like this because that's what I know how to do, and I think that will be better. And
there's a lot of that.
That's like a very natural.
The other thing is timelines, right? Like it's usually the way that this would have worked would be that like you might be dictating like several weeks' work. Yeah. And it would be like hard to go like, oh, if I do that, like the developer's probably thinking a little bit about their future self and having to deal with this in the future. Like, AI does not seem to do this. It'll create a lot of complexity in it. But like, they'll try and avoid adding stuff that they think is going to be a problem in the future. They will try and steer it down a particular way of doing things. But you also don't, you don't like have like once a week you have a status meeting. You don't go like, that, but red. Yeah. That is such a simple change. Yeah. That like you can just do it, and you would get this where you would sit down with a developer like and do like a lot of updates. Usually it would be like UI stuff, for instance. But you would like crank through a whole bunch of stuff, and then all of a sudden the thing looks different 2 hours later because you just do everything on the fly. It's just like that's like your whole development experience now. It's like you've got this incredibly collaborative developer that's always going to have a crack at anything you say. Yeah. You can always run like 5 different parallel streams of the thing and see which one works. Yeah. But yeah, you can just try stuff, see if it works, and like it is cool.
So I think that's been like a big takeaway. Maybe like I wouldn't say it's necessary that was necessarily something we had set in stone though. Like we were always kind of like articulating this bifurcation that might exist. Yeah. We weren't necessarily 100% sure where it would go. We thought it probably might go to more human at the edge. But I think we always needed to see that one play out. Yeah. But now, I'm kind of more convinced that the benefit lies in this kind of more bionic human approach to work, which just kind of makes sense. I think a lot of people are just going to be able to achieve a hell of a lot more and do the things they want to do. And the motivation will be high, the energy will be high.
I guess there's still, maybe, I've had so many conversations where it was like, well, what's the last thing that's there? Sort of like, what remains? Like, what's the last job? Like, what's the bit that the AI doesn't get? And maybe it is really just that the best way of working with these things is the collaboration because you are the embodied person. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's why it goes there at the end. So it's like, because otherwise I would have been like, well, maybe it's just a temporary thing. Maybe it's just like 5 years Bionic Human's better than Human at the Edge, and then the models are better, which I don't like as an end game of like, oh, magic, and then now the AIs take over. But maybe they don't, because no matter how good they get, it's still not embodied, so therefore you have to provide the body, therefore that is the collaboration. Now one embodied soul might get a lot more done with more tools in the future, but that's probably the way it would work.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable. Yeah. Okay, so that's
Yeah. So that's probably one of the biggest things I think that's changed for me
yeah.
in my day-to-day life.
Yeah, and almost without thinking about it too much, to be honest, because, as I said, like the thing that clicked for me was that this is just a more entertaining way of working. Like, and I don't actually necessarily feel like I'm working. Sometimes I will have to like check myself a little bit and go like, is this productive? Like, what am I doing here? Like, this could be more efficient. But
Yeah.
I think there's been I think there's been a lot of learning in there as well, which has been handy. It's hard to put a price on that. But yeah, that experimentation I think has brought me to this point where I'm like, oh yeah, no, I just quite enjoy working and operating like this with the model. It's collaborative. So that's been an obvious one.
There probably is a question of how to get better at doing that as a team as well.
True.
As to like
Yeah.
how do you have 3 people working with models, or 2 people, or 5 people? Like that still feels like
Yeah.
unresolved to me.
So are they working on the same thing?
I don't know, like, because it very much strikes me that you could have you could take, I don't know, so say like a tech project, you can split it up into areas and then each person can work with their models and that works. I found it hard to do the same thing, like coding with other people, like on the same project in the same area. It gets too messy.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, or could it be that there's one agent that 2 people talk to? I just haven't really run those experiments yet.
Yeah, interesting.
I mean, that's the sort of thing that, again, could probably just be built reasonably simply into Wingman. I just don't know why I would at the moment. But you could definitely have multiple people talk to it.
Yeah.
But maybe you would just confuse it. The question is like, well, do you let it finish what it's done? Like, do you...
Yeah. There's this like version control question as well. It's like, how do you keep track of... Like, you might have like competing interests from 2 different human inputs. What do you prioritize? I don't know. Maybe there's just a broader question there around like org design, which is maybe you just need to have like clearer delineation around like task ownership, and you don't need to have multiple people on a task. You could just have one.
Yeah.
And then the org structure is such that those people need to collaborate with each other, so that there's like, you know, again, there's some connection between those tasks, and everyone's working toward like a bigger picture. And you could have like an agent that is helping to organize that potentially, that everyone chats to.
I think there's definitely a big bit here of just like, what does it look like for teams to work with these things? Which this is an area I haven't seen like anybody. The only like, I think we mentioned him a few times, friend of the pod, like Aaron Levy from Box. I think I always say, I always prefix it by saying, I used to like this guy, but he has had a bunch of good AI takes recently. But he seems to talk, I mean, he's still obsessed with the idea that AI is going to be good for SaaS vendors, and I'm like, no, I don't agree with that bit. But he said some good, like, how people will work with AI takes. So maybe they're looking at it in that larger organizational context. But again, I haven't even seen really him talk much about it.
There's potentially a little bit of a vested interest baked into
obviously,
that view
like
about SaaS vendors. He's kind of supporting SaaS vendors, so he kind of needs to talk his book a little bit. But I think that some of his takes have been really, really good about this. But like, multiplayer mode is interesting because it almost feels like it's hard in a chat interface to run multiplayer. You know, like when you spin up ChatGPT, you're not immediately thinking, all right, this is like a text chain with 4 other friends and an agent. How does this work? Like, that's a bit messy. It's like Slack.
Yeah. I mean, you could definitely have like, you know, you could chuck it in Slack and you could have like conversations that go backwards and forwards. It's just not as obvious.
There's a broader question about Slack there, which we've had on the pod.
Yeah. All right. Well,
but I think
But I think that's an unexplored area.
Yes.
But I don't have any good answers to it. But what about other things that changed your mind on?
I think the other big one, like I think it might have been episode 2. We kind of talked about the philosophy of buy versus build. Yeah. And I think like the TLDR on this was probably like, what is, like, if you've got this like incredible leverage, what is the right way to go and capture value with these tools? Is it to go and build a company from scratch with the tools, and it's then necessarily optimized for AI from day one, but the trade-off is you don't have distribution and you've got to go and capture that? Or do you just go and buy an existing business and then try and like optimize it for AI working backwards, but you do have distribution? So that was the trade-off. And like, I think early on I was kind of like, well, distribution's really hard. So it kind of makes sense to go and buy the business. Obviously you need capital to go and do that, but if you've got the capital, go and buy the business, and then you can restructure it, you can automate the parts of it you need to automate, and give people the tools to do their job and empower them on the tools, and the business will be in a much better position. But I think over time, I've tended to gravitate back towards the build option as the one that's preferable, just because buying a business, and we've kind of seen this like working with various businesses as well, especially on strategy and looking at various processes that exist, or sometimes processes that don't exist but ought to. Like, existing organizations are just very messy creatures, and you can acquire them and you get the distribution, but you also acquire a lot of complexity. It's not necessarily straightforward to just go, well, we can unravel all of this with AI and it will be easy. I think there's a whole heap of, like, it says nothing of all of the kind of cultural and psychological and change management issues that are likely to occur as well if you try to undergo a big automation project like that inside of an existing business. It also strikes me as a side note that I don't quite understand the desire to sell AI automation services as like consulting. I feel like that's odd, but maybe that's something else we can touch on. But I think it's, again, this is like diminishing marginal returns question. Is like, is it worth inheriting all of that complexity for that distribution? Or could you just build a business model that is so efficient that you have fatter margins to go and throw at acquiring that distribution over a longer time scale? That's the question. I tend to gravitate toward the latter.
Yes, I think that's the move for us, is that it's maybe, what would this been like, 30 episodes ago?
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. Maybe I was just more bullish on timing. Like, this almost feels like more of a timing issue. I would have expected to see a lot more of the early stages of these acquisitions and things playing out. And I just haven't. Maybe that's because I'm sat on a beach in Australia, but like it just doesn't feel like this narrative has hit. And I think there's maybe just a lot more lack of knowledge, lack of understanding that's going to take longer to diffuse. So like my initial maybe thinking like, look, this could be like a 5-year game, maybe it's more of a 10-year game.
Yeah.
And if it's a 10-year game, then you've actually got time to stand stuff up. I mean, and this bit doesn't change, but I think a lot of the winners here are going to be small. Like, I think it's going to be easier to build, launch, and like get distribution at like a smaller, more localized scale. That's then easier to defend than it would be to like go after some sort of like mega global corp type thing. In which case, you know, you can do that. You do that locally and just be happy. Just like live a good life. That works for me. But yeah, like I similarly, like I felt like it was probably buy was best because I thought it was going to move a lot quicker. I think it just moved slower. Yeah, that's the main thing I think that shifted for me. It's just like, all right, maybe I was a bit too bullish on this, and then the more I deal with people and like do work, I think, you know what, this just is not understood at all yet, and there's a big gap in actually, you know, there's like what people say on podcasts. He says saying stuff on podcasts, and then there's like what you learn when you work with the things every day. And again, this would just be like, it's a natural outflow of saying like, all right, let's dedicate some time to actually understanding these tools at a deep level, and then you come out of it going, yeah, it's going to take a while. Like nobody knows it. Nobody, like, it's amazing. These things are capable of so much. I could do so much with this.
Yeah.
And then you go and talk to someone and say, oh, we could do all this. And they're like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, yeah. And you realize that it's very much a human diffusion problem here, that this could take an awful long time. And then it's a hard sell. You've got to convince somebody that everything about their business that works is wrong.
Exactly.
And I think the thing that convinces people is that when the competition shows up, but when the competition shows up, you're kind of too late at this point.
Yeah.
So like if people are going to start to sell like when the competition shows up, well, you kind of have to be the competition. So it's probably like, well, you almost have to build it in order to convince people that it's real.
Yes.
So that you could buy them. So
Exactly.
I think you kind of have to, even maybe it's not buy versus build, it's build then buy.
Yeah,
You know,
correct.
maybe that would make
Yeah.
more sense as the
You can
the
buy
longer-term
the
plan.
distribution later.
Once you've proved it and you actually have, you know, like a physical example where people are going to be, oh shit, and it's a very different game at that point. But by the time you've already built it, well, you've already built it.
Yeah.
So you could like scale up. You could buy distribution basically, but you wouldn't be buying a business.
Yeah.
It'd be
Yeah.
more
I think
like
that
a takeover. It'd be more roll up at that point.
exactly.
But you kind of always may as well just start.
You always start with a build. Yeah. And I think it's because to some degree you have carte blanche and first principles thinking at your disposal.
Yeah.
Whereas like the human nature aspect kicks in at some point when you're working with practitioners because they are hardwired to work a certain way. And there's some reluctance, I think, which is fair. It's completely fair. We all do it. We find an operating, like a working routine, and we just stick to it because that's what we know. And there's comfort and confidence that's baked into that as well. And so the paradox that exists there is like, ironically, the business you most likely want to buy because it does really well, it's probably the one that's least receptive to the change. You know, because there's way more risk involved. It's like the business is performing. You know, why should we tear this up and try something drastic when the business is working really well? And the irony is that the business that you probably don't want, which is struggling, is probably the one that's more prepared to take the risk on tearing everything up. So you may as well then go, well, why should we drop a whole heap of capital into like a high risk business that may not survive? We may as well just go throw the capital into funding our own
I
build
think as well,
for first
like,
principles.
like we, you know, there's two places where you're going to burn the time, and like one is on building the business. But every time you do that, you're building new capital, right? Like it's a new thing. Every like process you put in place, like all the money that you pay, like everything you set up, like each customer that you get, each contract, like it's all capital in that business.
Yeah.
That you're constantly building up. Whereas if you want to go and acquire the business, like you have to burn a lot of time building no capital and just trying to acquire the business. And like it's just, I feel like it just seems
Needless
like
complexity.
well, you end up with a bunch of complexity. You have to convince everybody of everything, and it's just like it's probably not the way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a good old.
It's the mid-curve approach.
I think maybe it is.
Yeah,
like
it
maybe
might be a bit mid-curvy.
maybe we just need to acknowledge that we've been a bit mid-curve in some of our opinions.
Yeah.
We should have listened to Gigi earlier and just embraced the left. We thought we were on the right.
Go full left curve.
We thought we were on the right side of the curve there. I mean, look, I still think that there's like the buy thing makes a lot of sense. Like if everything
right
moves
time.
quickly, I don't think it's going to move that quickly anymore. I also think that you're probably better off burning your time actually learning the industry.
Yes.
Like, because you could always just do the job yourself on a very small scale, but in doing that, you now know exactly how it works.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need an expert to come in because you're like, okay, well, I was just the expert for 6 months. Like, I don't know, just right from doing 20 years of consulting, it's like I'm fairly comfortable with having to just learn how to do a job on the job, like in a month, and then just appear to be an expert in it.
Yeah.
So it's possible to do that. I mean, I do think there's a good model from like a lot of consulting firms particularly in Australia and Perth here, are just like there's somebody that knows everybody that is good at their job, and they just constantly like leave companies, start new companies, and build it up based on all their personal relationships.
Yeah.
And then they flog it to Accenture or whatever at the end of it. Like that's usually the payout curve. for them. And I think there's like that is instructive as to like how to do it. Is that like, okay, well, what you probably don't want is if you start from scratch, like there are ways to supercharge it, and maybe the best way to supercharge it is that you back somebody. So you pick somebody to go with. Because I mean, the other thing we've looked at is like JVs and various things, and again, like it's just, it feels like weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's almost like a weird power dynamic, because I'm sort of like say, okay, well, what's? I think until it's proven, it's going to be hard to sell it. So then you got to. It's all about finding the right people. But I do think there's something here with the backing thing where you say, okay, we're going to start something brand new. You understand this, like you want to do it. We want to do it. Let's just start a new company from scratch that just has no employees. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. And then just like lean into those personal relationships.
Yeah, I think like the dynamic you want to almost capture is the working in the business while also working on the business. And it's like if you bring an operator along on the journey, you've got an operator that can work in the business while we're able to concurrently work on the business. And by that I just mean you want to build up a set of like, I guess AI, well, I don't know if this is the right way of saying it, but it's kind of like you want to leverage the tools in the right way to help the people go and like maximize their kind of creative output in that business. And like I default sometimes to using this like language around like AI native, and it is kind of nebulous, doesn't really mean anything. And I think it's really just about like which tools at various points in a process help someone do their job at like a kind of faster velocity, speed and velocity. And I think that's like the way you want to do it, really. But I think if you've got a bunch of blockers, or rather like pre-existing processes with a lot of like bloated software you need to use and pre-existing systems and like all of that stuff adds complexity. And then you've got to do like this whole education, relearning piece, all the change management, all that stuff's complex. But the thing is, like if you've got like, let's say we were starting a business and we had a third party as an operator, that operator could handle a day-to-day, and we could go, how do you work? And we could actually just do the job alongside them, but be like, you know, essentially building the rails so that as that business scales as well, it's got a good kind of like tool-based foundation to go and grow with minimal headcount and maximum margins. And I think that's like an interesting dynamic if you can capture that, because so often when you start businesses, as you know, like you just get lost in the day-to-day, and it's tiring. You know, you just have to keep grinding on these things, and you never really sit back and go, what's the optimal way for this business to run? And sometimes by default you end up just going, well, you know, competitors have built similar versions of this business, I'll just kind of build it the same way. And then you get the nth version of the business that exists, and it's not that necessarily that valuable, and it enters this kind of like competitive death spiral. So yeah, I think there's something there for sure. And I think I've definitely like kind of gravitated back more toward the build approach, with the potential for like roll up acquisitions once you've achieved a certain maturity.
I mean, I think again, to link it to the first lesson, it strikes me that building stuff is more fun.
Yes, it's more entertaining.
Like there's nothing about I think this is an area I suffered with the buy stuff. It's like, you know, I don't want to ruin your business. I want to build like my thing. Like, if you know what I mean. Like there's more positive energy there. And like I think it's to our detriment when we ignore like the positive and negative energy in life. So it's
completely.
It probably makes a lot more sense to just build the good thing than try and take something in. Because like that's the dirty bit of like the AI things. Like say, okay, well, if you're gonna have a company with no people in it, if I just do that from scratch, that's a win, right? I'm just a highly efficient company. There's no negativity there. If I take your company with 1,000 people in it and now it only has 5, there's a lot of negative energy attached to that company, and you just almost can't avoid it.
You can't win that.
It's like we could all be like super grown-ups about it, and like there's ways to do it nicely, I'm sure, but you're like, well, it's just like whoever's left, you know, they used to work with all of those people and had all these interactions, all this social stuff, and it's like, I don't think you can avoid that. I think it will it's probably, again, like way more natural to just come from scratch
Yeah.
and rebuild it. And maybe it kind of has to be that way
Yeah.
in a way that's not technically obvious, but makes more human sense. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think tapping into the energy, what's entertaining, again, this is like work and play. Because, any project is like it's a decision around how much of your life you're willing to give to it. Like that's the currency that you hand over for it. So like, which is the thing that's going to like be a worthwhile trade of the time that you have?
Yeah.
I think you want to just align your answers to that. Now, if you're a private equity guy who lives for private equity deals and M&A, you're probably going to gravitate to the acquisition stuff, and that's fine. Go for it. I think for us, though, like natively being builders, we kind of want to build. The one caveat here, well, I wouldn't say it's a caveat, the characteristic I think that led us towards buy over build as well was always the barriers to entry. Because again, like this is backed into your point about the timescale. Because we thought this would happen really quickly, you wanted to have the business that had the barriers to entry, because those would have the kind of the slowest like decline in the value trap.
Yep.
It would be harder for people to catch up in those spaces because there might be regulatory or compliance hurdles. The costs of customer acquisition might be really high. It's really just dependent on that business. And so those were ideal targets to buy, but they're less ideal to go and build in those spaces because you've now got this like massive hurdle that you are trying to fight against. So you probably don't end up operating in the same spaces that you might have. You're probably in more competitive spaces by design because the barriers to entry don't exist, but that's fine because you probably can outcompete on margin.
I mean, I think you would also look at that and say that, like, if that's the case, the barrier to entry, we say barrier to entry, what we mean is overly government regulated.
Yeah.
And like, I honestly just don't want to deal with overly government regulated. So I think I naturally just go, no, not interested. That sounds like the worst thing. I'm not looking for more government regulation in my life. That sounds bad. So I should just not do any of that stuff. But
it's true. Yeah. Again, it's just like optimize for energy and simplicity as best you can.
Well, and I think maybe there's another case here where, like, we gravitated towards, like, maybe we mid-curved that a little bit, and it's because it sounds like the right thing to do, and then when you pursue it, you go, you know what, this is there's all sorts of additional like just human elements here that this is not as simple as it looks. The simple thing to do is to just go over here, is to remove permission. Like, removing permission just is like
it's the answer.
It is, because then you can just be a thing. You can do things at that point.
I think the irony also is that, like, if you do go and buy, you're probably going to buy like a smaller business that you're able to kind of navigate, where you're able to navigate the change management hurdles a little bit more effectively anyway. Because if you just go into this big behemoth and you throw hundreds of millions of dollars at it, like, okay, you've just bought like years and years and years of change management headaches. Like, that's the thing that you've bought, right? And so if you then decide, well, okay, I won't buy the $300 million version of this company, I'll go and buy the $10 million version of this company. The question then is like, okay, what's the trade-off here in terms of change management versus me just starting day one from scratch with some capital to go and acquire customers? I don't know. I feel like I'd be more predisposed to just starting my own thing from scratch. Like, that's where my energy would be in that equation. Like, it makes less sense.
I mean, you do still have a bunch of other problems around growth and
always
sales and everything else, which is its own set of shit to deal with. But
but it's you do, but you back yourself with those, don't you? I mean, like, that again feels like you can take ownership of it. I feel like change management is hard because you're just competing against human interest, and that resistance can build up inside the organization, and it can impact culture, and like, there's so many downstream risks of it where it can just break the business apart, like, especially if you try to move too quickly. Sometimes, like, too much change can just lead to cultural breakdown, and then no one's happy, and know that all of the work suffers and the client relationships suffer, and and then it just becomes a bit of an avalanche. So
well, I mean, it's interesting because, like, just for me personally, I'm probably better at change management than I am at sales. I've done like lots of very large change management programs over the years, but I've never really been a shit hot salesperson.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of it. It's like, man, I could probably, maybe I could just, I gravitate that way. Somehow I can deal with that. But I think I still like look at the sales. I'm like, you know what? Like, I could probably automate a lot of this.
Yeah.
Just do it. Which probably means that I should do that.
Well, it's a similar sort of thing.
Fill the gaps.
Yeah. It's like, what are the parts that you struggle with? What are the gaps?
Yeah.
How can I use AI to fill those gaps? And
But I mean, you're right that like change is something that takes time.
Yeah.
And so it shouldn't be underestimated. And I think there's two aspects of the time of the buy, right? Is that there's the amount of time it takes to actually convince people that this is a problem. And as I said, I think the thing that convinces people is the competitor, in which case you may as well just build the competitor.
Yeah.
To a certain point, you're probably going to have to at least demo that you can do everything before you've done it, at which point you kind of have
you've done the
like at least a minimum viable version of a competitor anyway. So why not just launch it? So yeah, it feels like I would gravitate that way. But are they the only two things that we've learned?
Probably not.
That
I mean, we've
shifted our mind on. I feel like
we've gone into detail on two things.
Yeah.
There are probably more.
Well, they're the big things that strike me.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, like I kind of touched on this. The aside that I had earlier was I don't know why people try to sell AI services into large companies. And by that, I just mean like, every offer that you see online about like automating processes and stuff. I feel like this is just really difficult. But also, I don't understand, like, if you have this like incredible leverage at your disposal, and you understand that leverage, the power that it brings you, why would you try and sell your time? That's the part that I don't quite understand.
Well, because you know how to do it.
I guess it's comfortable.
It's comfortable. It's a comfortable life. You've done this, like, to a certain extent, AI is no different to all technology. It's always all been about automation and making someone's job earlier.
Yeah.
And it is easier to run a project for somebody inside their company than it is to go and start a company. That's just why some people do and some people don't. And there's different risk profiles to that. There's different payoffs. So I think that's a good part of it.
Yeah.
I think the next is that, and this is where I'll come across as a dickhead, is that
we're 31 episodes in, mate. It's too late for that.
It's too late. Everybody knows. A nice enough dickhead, though.
Yeah.
Like that's what I aim for.
The good side. Yeah.
Appears to be a dickhead, actually all right.
Yeah.
that's the goal. It's just that I'm pretty sure nobody understands any of it. Well, that's not true. There's a bunch of people that do. Most people that are commenting that I think you hear about on social media are kind of, they know enough to say things that sound correct, but they don't really stand
Sound effects. Sounds, good.
The ambient horns. Yeah, they know enough to say stuff that sounds correct, but is just not true.
Yeah. I guess what's shifted for me, though, is actually like you're selling this into a business, and I think businesses love the idea of it.
Yeah.
But so when it comes to implementation, they're like, nah, there's too much.
Yeah. But also they want to hear, like, again, there's the stuff that sounds correct.
Yeah.
Is kind of what you need to go with there. And so you can do a lot of just sounding like you know what you're talking about, not really knowing. So I think even then, like when you get into the implementation, it's like,
yeah.
But to really take advantage of it, I think it needs to be, I mean, we talked about this, right? This came up recently. It was like, look, one of our realizations recently was like, look, where the market's at is that nobody understands it. So the thing the market needs is to understand it. So the product isn't strategy, because to have a strategy for something, you need to understand it. So we think that so this was a learning, right? Is that we think we chose the wrong product there.
Yeah.
We chose it because we thought it was like a good entry point, but we assumed more knowledge. And I don't think it was obvious maybe to us when we started that, like that would be a drag on the strategy. But like you need to work with somebody that knows their business,
exactly,
and already kind of has has realized like where it can impact their business. Because otherwise you're trying to like live convince somebody of what to do, and then now you're back into like the same game as when you're trying to like buy someone's business or something. You need to convince them there's enough of a problem to make any of the changes in the first place. Like it's just, you really do need this stuff to come from the leaders. So the correct approach to this is, we need to show you what this can do, and you need to internalize it yourself. Then we can talk about what you can do next.
Exactly.
But the correct product there is like a training / educational piece, which we will be offering.
Nice plug.
Yeah, exactly. and I think that's the way to do it. And that should be fun. It should be hands-on.
Hands-on, yeah, definitely.
It should be,
just learn what's possible by doing.
You've got to actually do the things. Like there's no, as always, right? It's like Bitcoin. It's proof of work.
Yeah.
And then there's just lies and nonsense.
Yeah.
Like it's just, you've got to do the work to understand it. I think there's better ways to make that fun and achievable than maybe just spending 6 months of your time just having a crack and learning as you go.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to do that, but I think we can accelerate some learning.
Speedrun
but you can't. Yeah, you can speedrun it. That's a good name for a training program, which is what we're going to call it.
Yeah.
So you get to speedrun everything we've done for the last 6 months, which was.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a plug.
Well, sometimes as well, it can be a bit directionless as well when you're trying to figure out like what's the thing I can do, and sometimes it can be handy to just have some people around that can like point you in the right direction, and I think that's valuable, because I mean we were feeling around in the dark with this stuff. We were just kind of like following our own intellectual curiosity, but we also had time and space to do it. Yeah. And most people who are working full-time jobs, they don't have the time and the space to do it, even if they've got the curiosity. So you need to be able to condense that in an environment, in a sandbox where you can just, think about this stuff freely.
Yes. Yeah, and also apparently we had two big things wrong, as we've learned.
Did we?
Well, apparently, because we just spent an hour talking about it. So I guess
only two.
We were. So we were, but we started with those assumptions to a certain amount.
That's what the good stuff is. It's a self-aware pod.
All right. Well, maybe on that note.
That's a good note to wrap.
That's the good stuff.